I've been thinking, I really want to learn how to make more money, and I know I can't be alone in this thought. In this video, we'll explore the 3 main ways to do so and figure out which makes the most sense for you to pursue. Welcome to Get It Together, and if you're new here, this channel is just me trying to figure out how to get my life together and sharing the tips and lessons I learned along the way. And as I get closer to the end of the Learning Minimalism series, I've been thinking about what the next series on Get It Together will be. And I've decided that it'll be learning how to make more money with a side hustle. By the end of this video, we'll have explored the 3 main ways for normal people like us who don't have a ton of money in the bank to start a side hustle, know the benefits and drawbacks of each, and form a foundation to decide based on our own self-awareness which one to pursue first for you and your own personality and life situation, all of that. But first, something Tim Ferriss said on one of his podcast episodes really resonated with me. He said that most of us, when we think about the life we'd like to have, or hell, even an individual purchase that we want to buy, we think about anchoring it against our current income. In other words, we focus on where we can cut back so we can build the savings to stack against the desired lifestyle or purchase. But then he continued with something along the lines of, even if you have an amazing job that nets you, say, 100 grand a year, the absolute maximum you can save is 100 grand a year. And that's assuming someone else is magically paying for the roof over your head, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, and you never go out on your own dime. And that's what most folks do. We focus on saving and spending more wisely against what we have. But then he said instead, if we focus on making more money, sky's the limit. Now that's all fine and dandy in theory, but when we're here scraping by with our day jobs, juggling the never-ending barrage of expenses, it feels like it's freaking impossible to say, oh, I'll just make more money. That's why in this video, as we explore the 3 primary ways to side hustle, I'll be examining them through the lens of minimizing risk, minimizing upfront investment, and minimizing the amount of time it'll take to validate your idea. So when it comes to making more, there are 3 main roads we can take. I mean, technically there are 2. That's a product-based business, like selling t-shirts, and a service-based business, like being a tutor. But I'm going to add content-based business as its own category, even though, by all accounts, it's more of a service-based business. I've broken content out because of some interesting nuances, and to me, enough nuances from traditional service-based businesses that I feel it makes sense to make it its own category. So what are the core differences, and which makes sense for you to pursue first? Well, let's find out. For the purposes of relevance and simplicity, I'm going to assume that you're just like me in that you don't have a ton of startup capital to, say, for example, have 50 grand lying around to open a restaurant. So although there are many ways to execute product-based, service-based, or content-based businesses, I'm only going to be talking about the least expensive ways to start. Also, I'm going to assume that you're just like me in that you still need to work a day job. So this, at least for starters, is going to be a true side hustle. So with these 2 assumptions, not having a bunch of startup capital and doing this part-time for starters, let's take a look at each quickly, starting with product-based hustles. When it comes to product-based income streams, you're offering a thing that people can either literally hold in their hands, or it could be digital, but that they can use at their own convenience. For people like us with little startup capital, this typically comes in a few forms. 1. Drop shipping, where you have a website that resells things, but you never actually touch inventory. People order from your website notifies the manufacturer or warehouse. They ship your customer the product for you, and you guys split the profit. The second way is on-demand fulfillment, where similarly to drop shipping, you never touch inventory, but you're limited to a small selection of products dictated by the fulfillment house. More often than not, these are things like t-shirts or mugs, where you can create your own designs, upload them to the fulfillment center system, synchronize that system with your own website, and then, for example, when someone goes to your website and orders a mug with your design on it, your website notifies the on-demand fulfiller, and an employee literally takes 1 blank mug, prints your design on it, packages it, and ships it to your customer for you. They charge a lot for this convenience, but the benefit of never needing to touch inventory is especially worth it at the beginning when you don't have a ton of cash and are just validating if people even like your designs. The third way to make money from a product-based standpoint are digital products. Writing and selling ebooks, of course, courses where the inventory is digital, so there's no shipping involved. The fourth way for normal people like us is to use crowdfunding on platforms like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, where you have an idea, make a prototype for your invention, create a campaign page on those platforms, set the amount you need to bring it to life as a funding goal, and people essentially make pre-orders well in advance to give you the money to actually be able to manufacture at scale and then ship it to them. My friend Eric and I have done 3 of these campaigns, and If you're interested in the most recent one, I'll link the video right up here. But those are the 4 ways that I believe are the most cost-effective and least risky ways for normal people like us to start a product-based business. Notice how everything also operates online. This saves the cost of renting a physical store while simultaneously opens the market internationally. Now, the biggest benefits to product-based side hustles are that they are the easiest type of business to eventually remove yourself from the day-to-day tasks while just collecting money. They're one of the easiest to scale because, if you front-load the effort to have the products and the website ready, once it's up and running, every time someone buys from your site, you have to spend minimal time and resources to actually get it to them. But at the same time, the biggest challenge is getting traffic to your website or store in competitive spaces. Marketing and advertising costs can really balloon. And if it's a physical product and you decide to carry inventory, then you gotta manage logistics and shipping, returns, and all of that stuff. But let's talk about startup costs for your first year of operation when it comes to product-based businesses. Just remember that the dollar values I'm listing here may change, and also I'm listing them at the higher end, factoring potential taxes depending on where you live. The absolute minimum startup cost range for year 1, assuming you already have a computer and a cell phone. Well, those are, number 1, a domain name like franksfootwearforfrogs.com. I don't think that's a website domain that's being used, but that shouldn't cost you more than $20 including taxes for the first year. You'll need a platform for your domain to actually sell your products, so a Shopify or Squarespace site, and depending on taxes in your area, that shouldn't cost more than $40 per month or $480 for the first year. If we're going absolute minimum, you might not even need a logo, but if you do, that'll be an upfront design cost. And I won't speculate because you might know how to design or you may know a designer who can help you out. But you can also use services like Fiverr or whatever and find a designer there. But for the sake of planning, I'm going to say that it'll cost you $200 as an upfront cost for a logo. Again, you may find someone on Fiverr to do it for $5. You may find an agency that'll charge $50,000. Your cousin might be able to do it for free, but I'm saying $200 since worst case, you'll definitely find someone, even a graphic design student, for a maximum of $200 for sure. Now, when it comes to email, you can just use a Gmail or Yahoo or whatever free email service you want if you're going bare minimum. But at some point, if you want to appear more professional, you'll probably want an email address for your domain like frank@franksfootwearforfrogs.com. And so G Suite by Google will run you, again, depending on where you live and how taxes work, no more than $10 a month. So that's $120 for the first year. I'm also going to add Wave Accounting as an accounting app since it's for free, $0 for year 1. So the domain name, e-commerce site, $200 maximum logo, professional email, and the accounting app come to a total of $820 for the first year. But everyone's situation is different and every geographical location is different. But none of this takes into account the lawyer and government fees for potential cost of incorporation if that's what makes most sense for you. I'll have a dedicated video about that, so if you're catching value, do consider subscribing. But let's move on to the second type of side hustle, which is, a service-based business. You're offering a service to help people do something they either don't know how to do, are unwilling or unable to do, or don't have the time to do. For us, with little startup capital, this typically comes in a few forms. A specialized skill is where you can help people with something they don't know how to do, such as cutting their hair or doing a photo shoot for their family. Some things people are unwilling to do, like cutting their grass, or they find it really challenging to do, like tutoring their kid. And some things people don't have the time to do, where you can just swoop in and say, walk their dog. Some of these require just your brain and body, while others require actual tools you need to use. Others even require that you have a specialized license. But regardless, the biggest benefit is that you can start making money the fastest out of all 3 ways. And it also has potentially the lowest barrier to actually get started. For example, you can start tutoring a neighbor for their SAT prep right this second without a website, forming an LLC, or any of that. But at the same time, some of the biggest challenges for service-based businesses is that it requires consistent outbound sales efforts. And many people are uncomfortable doing sales in the first place. And don't worry, there'll be several videos in the future about doing sales as well. Another challenge is that it can be more difficult to remove yourself from the day-to-day operations. Let's face it, one of the most desired goals for anyone starting a business is that they can eventually just step back and have the money coming in on autopilot. But if you're, using that example, an SAT tutor, it'll be kind of difficult to collect money without actually tutoring. But let's move on to the startup costs associated with service-based businesses. The absolute minimum startup cost range for year 1, again, I'm assuming you have a computer and a cell phone already and all the potential tools necessary. Well, that's $0. Taking our SAT tutor as an example, your knowledge exists in your brain, and chances are you have pencils and paper available to actually be able to do the tutoring. But it really depends because, for example, if you're a photographer, you'll probably want a website and a professional looking email address. You can absolutely start by just using a regular Gmail or Yahoo and have a Facebook page instead of a website to show your work. But if you wanted to appear really professional, you'll need similar stuff to the product-based businesses we talked about earlier. But less expensive because you don't need the e-commerce options. So even though, depending on the service you're offering, you can start with literally $0, I'll go through the year one cost breakdowns if you do need a website and professional domain and email and all that kind of stuff. Your domain, for example, like sarahssatstudents.com, shouldn't cost you more than $20 including taxes for the first year. Google Suite for a professional email address won't cost you more than $10 a month, and that works out to no more than $120 for the first year. And for this, in terms of website, I just use the most basic version of Squarespace without the e-commerce capabilities for as little as $15 a month, including taxes, for a total of first year costs no more than $180. And I'm definitely going to recommend Wave Accounting at $0 because from a service-based business perspective, you'll want to be able to create invoices to bill your clients. If you decide you need a logo, I'm going to repeat the assumptive cost of $200 up front, but similarly to the above, you might know someone who could do it for free or could spend more than the cost of a new car on this, but $200 is a very healthy budget to get something. Similarly to the product-based side, you might decide on incorporation or LLC formation, but again, there'll be a dedicated video about my thoughts on that in the future. Tallying everything up again, you could start some service-based businesses with literally $0, but with this list above, the first year will cost you $520. And now let's move on to the third way of starting a side hustle, and that is content-based side hustles. You're offering education, entertainment, or both through your own voice and or face. For us with little startup capital, nowadays this typically comes from a few forms. Starting a podcast, starting an Instagram page, starting a YouTube channel, or starting a website, a blog. Remember at the start of this video, I said I'm breaking content out into a separate category, even though technically it's a service? That's because one of the main interesting differentiators for content-based businesses is that the assumed customer does not directly give you income. Meaning you, watching this now, are not giving me any money. Of course, you can break out and sell merch and offer value-added content on things like Patreon, and those are just two examples. But this is all to say that although the root of your income is your audience, the source of your income more often than not comes from elsewhere, like advertisers or affiliate partners you sell on behalf of to your audience. But anyways, the biggest benefits of a content-based business is that it can be started and continued without dependence on customers. Products and service-based businesses need paying clients to literally hand you money, whereas content-based, you don't even have to really work with anyone. You can be the biggest antisocial introvert forever and build your business. Another benefit is that it can become the most passive source of income. I mean, there are bloggers who haven't written anything new in several years, but because their articles are still relevant today, their ad and affiliate marketing revenues continue to earn them money month after month after month. The biggest challenges, however, is that content-based side hustles have the absolute longest zero to income runway. Most will make absolutely zero money for quite a long time. Another challenge is that you are a single point of failure. If you're a podcaster and you get, strep throat and can't talk, you can't record your podcast even if you wanted to. But to me, the biggest drawback is that more often than not, you are not in control of monetization rules, nor the platform itself. This means that, for example, an Instagrammer who's making tons of money from sponsored posts can lose all income continuity if, for example, Facebook, who owns Instagram, decides to just kill off Instagram. I don't think that's going to happen, but the point is you are not in control. There are even cases where people who have built a huge following on Instagram again, one day just can't log in. They contact Instagram and get a generic response that says, you violated our terms of service, but they don't even tell them what exactly they violated. 100,000 followers, monetization opportunities, all of that vanished overnight. This is why, by the way, content creators are recommended to build an email list so that even in the event something like the two examples we just talked about happen, and either the platform or your account vanish, you still have a way to contact people who are on your email list. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but let's just talk costs. The absolute minimum startup cost for year one, assuming you have a smartphone again and a computer, is $0. There are countless YouTubers making money who film their videos entirely on their phones or even on their crappy laptop webcam. So we've gone through the three types of side hustles, but which makes the most sense for you? To be clear, I intend on eventually learning all three. But from the money-making axis, it's really simple. Product-based businesses that operate online have a lot more inherent moving parts than any other. They'll take you a bit more time than service-based businesses for you to actually start making money. But they're also the easiest for you to eventually remove yourself from the day-to-day operations. Now, content-based businesses take the absolute longest for you to even have the chance of making any money. And you're more often than not the single point of failure. But more often than not, they have the lowest startup and operating costs, have the fewest interpersonal dependencies, and are perfect if you're genuinely passionate about something. Now, when it comes to service-based businesses, based on your skills and existing tools, are likely the fastest possible way for you to start making money, period. This is why, for example, if you currently have quite a lot of debt like I did, this is the one that I think makes the most sense. Speaking of debt, I'll link the entire How to Actually Get Out of Debt series right up here. I also created a 100% free, no strings attached Get Out of Debt workbook you can print out, and the link is in the description below. At the end of the day, for any business, whether it's a side hustle or full-time, to survive and thrive, it must provide value to someone. An entertaining podcast content-based side hustle provides the value of saving someone from boredom on their commute to and from work. A product-based business like a t-shirt designer provides the value of looking cool. A service-based wedding photographer side hustle provides the value of preserving memories people can cherish forever. Think about the value that you feel you can provide. The next series on Get It Together is going to be me learning how to make more money with one of these 3 side hustle types, which is why I'm asking for your help. Based on everything that we talked about, please comment down below which of the 3, product, service, or content, matches the type of value you want to share and sell to the world. And the one that has the most comments, well, that's the type the next series on Get It Together will be focused on. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, please do hit that like button. You can subscribe right over here as well if this series is one you'll want to keep up with. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll catch value from this one right up here. And again, the entire How to Actually Get Out of Debt series is linked right down here. I'll catch you guys in the next one.